Welcome back to That 90s Pod, everybody. Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into something huge, culturally huge.
Yeah.
The Oprah Effect.
It really is.
It's more than just her show, honestly.
Yeah.
It's like this lasting impact she had on everything from literature and self-help stuff all the way to philanthropy, even social justice.
Right.
It's pretty fascinating how one woman can have so much influence, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that Oprah's whole approach was so different from everything else on TV at the time.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
To really appreciate her impact, we need to kind of picture what the media landscape was like back in the late 80s and early 90s.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. What was so different about television back then?
Well, America was going through this huge period of change.
Right.
Cold War was ending, the whole tech boom was happening, and social attitudes were evolving. Television definitely reflected all that. And a lot of times it kind of leaned towards sensationalism and conflict.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It was all about who could be the most outrageous.
Exactly. It was all about shock value.
Yeah.
But then Oprah comes along and she's offering this totally different vibe. It's empathy and genuine connection. It was this breath of fresh air for viewers who were kind of craving something more authentic, and her timing was perfect because people were really looking for meaning and connection in all this change.
It's amazing how she just tapped right into that need.
Right.
And, we can't talk about the Oprah Effect without talking about her book club. I mean, it wasn't just a segment on her show. It was a full-blown cultural revolution.
It really was.
Launched in 96.
Yeah.
And suddenly books like the Poisonwood Bible and A Lesson Before Dying became instant bestsellers.
Huge.
What do you think made her book selections resonate so much with viewers?
Well, I think it was a few things. First, her genuine passion for reading was contagious.
Okay.
She didn't just present the book, she would share her own reflections and insights, making viewers feel like they were part of a book club discussion with a close friend.
I can see that.
Then her choices often focused on themes like empathy and resilience and self-discovery.
Right.
Topics that really resonated with people who were trying to figure out modern life,
Yeah, totally.
And then finally, her selections often featured diverse voices and stories.
Oh, for sure.
Exposing her audience to perspectives they might not have seen otherwise.
Yeah, you're so right. She wasn't just recommending books. She was curating a whole experience,
Yeah,
creating this community around reading.
definitely.
And, I mean, she could turn unknown authors into stars overnight.
It's crazy to think about the impact she had on publishing.
Oh, absolutely. It was a complete paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Oprah proved that television could be more than just entertainment.
Yeah.
It could be a way to elevate and enlighten.
Right.
And that influence, it went way beyond just literature, too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But before we get into that, if you're enjoying this little trip back to the 90s with us, hit that subscribe button and share the nostalgia with your friends.
Yes, definitely do that. And let's talk about her impact on self-help and mental health.
This is a time when these topics were kind of taboo, but Oprah brought them into the mainstream.
Yeah, it was groundbreaking.
Yeah.
She used her platform to make it okay to talk about things like self-empowerment and therapy and emotional well-being. And by sharing her own struggles with weight and relationships and even trauma, she made it okay for other people to do the same.
It's almost hard to believe now, but back then, seeing someone like Oprah, who was so successful and influential, talk openly about being vulnerable.
Right.
It was incredibly powerful.
It was a turning point. Culturally, millions of viewers felt seen and understood.
Yeah.
It kind of gave them permission to embrace their own stories and look for support.
Her authenticity was key, wasn't it?
It really was.
She wasn't preaching from some pedestal.
No.
She was sharing her journey along with her viewers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that authenticity, it went even further with another part of the Oprah Effect, her generosity. Remember those iconic giveaways? You get a car, everybody gets a car.
Yep.
It wasn't just about giving stuff away. It was about creating these moments of pure joy and surprise.
And those giveaways often went hand in hand with her focus on social issues too, right?
Yes, definitely.
Like education and health and poverty.
Absolutely. She didn't just want to entertain. She wanted to inspire action. She used her influence to shine a spotlight on important causes, and she really encouraged her viewers to participate in making the world a better place.
That's the perfect transition into the next part of our deep dive. But before we move on, I have to ask, what was the cultural impact of all this giving?
Okay.
Did she actually inspire real change, or was it all just for show?
That is a great question, and one that we'll definitely explore further in part 2. So you were asking about the impact of Oprah's giving.
Yeah. Like, did she actually inspire real change?
Right. Well, what's really interesting here is it goes beyond just like writing a check. Oprah's philanthropy was really tied to her show's content. So it created this sort of feedback loop of awareness and action.
So it wasn't just about the money, but like using her platform to give these causes a boost.
Exactly. Take her Angel Network, for example.
Okay.
It wasn't just about donating money. It was about getting her viewers to volunteer, donate goods, and really get involved in their own communities.
That's such a 90s thing, though, right?
Yeah.
Like that whole hands-on, make a difference vibe. Do you think that kind of impact is even possible now with like social media and everything?
That's a great question, and it's something we're still figuring out today. You know, the way we interact with media and social issues has changed so much since the 90s. But Oprah's legacy in this area is huge. She really showed us that a talk show could be a force for social change, that entertainment could have a real impact on the world.
Okay, but was it all positive? There had to be some downsides to all this Oprah Effect stuff on like consumerism, right?
There were definitely some critiques.
Yeah.
Some people argued that all the giveaways promoted a culture of materialism, or that her endorsements could sometimes overshadow the actual substance of a product or a cause.
So maybe it wasn't all sunshine and roses.
Right. No phenomenon is perfect.
Yeah.
But it's important to think about the context. This was before social media influencers. Before we were constantly bombarded with ads, Oprah's endorsements had a different kind of weight because they felt authentic, like they came from her own experiences and beliefs.
But that makes sense. She had built up so much trust with her viewers. So her recommendations felt more like advice from a friend than a sales pitch.
Exactly. And even though her influence on what people bought is undeniable, you can't ignore the bigger picture. She introduced her viewers to all sorts of new ideas, diverse voices, social issues they might not have ever known about otherwise.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit and talk about the legacy of the Oprah Winfrey Show.
Okay.
We've talked before about how her approach to talk shows was so different. How do you think that has influenced television today?
Well, you can see Oprah's influence all over today's talk shows. If you look at shows like Ellen or Kelly Clarkson Show,
Right.
you see that same focus on empathy, authenticity, connecting with the audience personally. Oprah really paved the way for a whole new kind of talk show, one that's less about being shocking and more about having meaningful conversations.
And she also normalized having a diverse group of guests and talking about social issues, right? I mean, that was pretty groundbreaking at the time.
Absolutely. Oprah's show was a reflection of how America was changing. She welcomed guests from all walks of life, representing different cultures, ethnicities, different points of view. And she talked about things like racism, LGBTQ+ rights, domestic violence. She wasn't afraid to use her platform to start conversations and challenge the way things were.
And don't forget about her impact on the self-help movement.
Right.
She made it okay to talk about therapy and self-esteem and personal growth.
Right.
Like those were things people hardly even whispered about before Oprah brought them out in the open.
Exactly. Oprah made it okay to ask for help. And that had a huge effect on our culture. She helped make it so being vulnerable wasn't a weakness, it was a strength.
I am curious, though. Did she ever get any criticism for promoting self-help gurus or ideas that maybe weren't really backed up by science?
Of course. There were always critics. Some people argued that she gave a platform to questionable figures or promoted ideas that were more about feeling good than being true. But you have to remember, the self-help world was a lot different back then. What Oprah did was open up these conversations about personal growth and well-being that were way overdue.
Okay, so before we wrap up our deep dive into the Oprah Effect, we want to remind everyone listening, if you're enjoying this trip down memory lane, be sure to subscribe to that 90s pod and share it with your friends.
Yes. Tell everyone who loves the 90s to come join us.
Okay, now back to Oprah.
Right.
What do you think is the most important part of her legacy? Like the thing that really sticks with people?
That's a tough one. There are so many parts to her impact. But I think it boils down to her ability to connect with people on a really deep level. Like, she wasn't just a TV host. She was a confidant, a cheerleader, a voice for people who didn't have one.
Yeah, I think you're right. She created a place where people felt seen and heard and understood. And that's got to be the most powerful legacy anyone could have.
It really is. It's incredible to think about how much influence one person can have.
It really is. And even though the Oprah Winfrey Show ended a long time ago,
Yeah.
the conversations, it started the connections, it made the inspiration it gave, it all still continues today.
It really shows the power of being genuine and empathetic and really wanting to connect with other people. Oprah showed us that a talk show can be more than just entertainment. It can be a way to change society, to help people grow, and to have really important conversations.
Well said.
Yeah.
And on that note, I think that's a perfect place to end this part of our deep dive.
Yeah.
What an amazing journey through the world of Oprah and everything she accomplished.
It really was a fascinating look at a true 90s icon.
A huge thanks to everyone for joining us on this trip back to the days of dial-up and scrunchies.
And don't forget to subscribe to that 90s pod and share it with your friends. If you love the 90s, come hang out with us.
Until next time, stay rad. It's amazing how we went from all those like crazy over-the-top talk shows in the 90s to this much more empathetic style that Oprah really started. I wonder if she changed the way we communicate today.
It's definitely possible. I mean, Oprah showed everybody the power of being vulnerable, sharing your stories and listening to other people with compassion. And you see that everywhere now, not just on TV, but in everyday life.
Yeah, you're right. There's a lot more emphasis on being authentic and empathetic these days. It seems like people are more willing to have tough conversations that they might have avoided before.
Yeah. And that's a good thing, right? Creating a space where everyone feels okay sharing their perspective, even if it's totally different from yours.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what we were saying about Oprah having such a diverse group of guests and being willing to tackle those controversial issues. She never shied away from challenging the status quo, pushing boundaries, starting debates.
Exactly. That's what made her show so interesting. It wasn't just entertainment. It was about looking at the world around us, questioning things, broadening our understanding of different cultures and viewpoints.
It's crazy to think about how much one show changed our culture. And even though the Oprah Winfrey Show has been off the air for a long time,
right,
the conversations it started, the connections it made, the inspiration it gave, it's still going strong today.
It really shows you the power of being real, being empathetic, and truly wanting to connect with other people. Oprah proved that a talk show could be more than just entertainment. It could be a platform for changing society, helping people grow, and having important conversations.
Well said. And I think that's a perfect note to end on. What an amazing journey through the world of Oprah and her impact.
Yeah, it was fascinating to take a deep dive into such a legendary 90s figure.
A huge thank you to all of you for joining us on this nostalgia trip back to the 90s.
Don't forget to subscribe to that 90s pod and tell all your friends who love the 90s to join us.
Until next time, stay rad.